Hey there, and welcome to the FTN Network Schatz and Tanier NFL podcast for Monday, October 16th, 2023. I am Aaron Schatz of FTN Network. You can find my work, of course, at ftnfantasy.com/DVOA. He is Mike Tanier from themessenger.com. Don't forget to check out all his articles at themessenger.com, including the Monday morning walkthrough review. And don't forget to find us here at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, Mondays and Thursdays. Although, again, this Thursday, we will be on at 5 p.m., not 11 a.m., 5 p.m. this Thursday. All right, let's review Week 6 in the NFL. And don't forget, if you're watching live, we'll take your comments and questions about the week of upsets. You know, usually on this podcast, we do what's your biggest surprise of the week. Biggest surprise of the week was like everything. So what's your opinion about who should be most worried about this week's games? Buffalo, Philadelphia, San Francisco, or Kansas City on offense, given that they couldn't score that many points against the horrible Denver defense. Their defense was very good. But
so much worry. I would call the 49ers the least worried team of this group, assuming that they're monitoring the McCaffrey injury situation, and that's not anything that's going to linger too far. Debo looks like he's going to be okay. So I'll put them at the least worried.
All right.
Then we're going to go with the Chiefs because they do this. You know,
we all feel like the Chiefs offense is going to come around because it's the Chiefs offense, and this happens every year, and they eventually come around.
Right. We don't have a lot of fear of their division either.
Right.
Along the way. Then we're going to put the Eagles in. And remember, and every Eagles fan knows this, there is a nightmare schedule coming in November in which the Eagles face, I don't have it in front of me, but it's like the Bills and the Chiefs and the Niners and the 1985 Bears are in there, I think, and the 2007 Patriots. It is a wild schedule. So every time the Eagles trip, there's a fear that not only are weaknesses being exposed, and that might be the case, but that they're losing games they can't afford to lose late in the year. So I'll put them second. And then we have the Bills, who every time they do something like this are putting themselves in a position where they might be a wild card team, which is not where they want to be based on the strength of their schedule.
Yeah, and you know what? It's funny because I'm the same way. I have the Bills as the least worried team. I mean, sorry, the Bills as the most worried team, even though they pulled off the win. I would be really worried about their defense. Without Milano and without White, but in particular Milano, I think, for pass coverage. Wan'Dale Robinson caught 8 of 8 targets for 62 yards, and Darren Waller caught 5 of 7 for 43. And that's like the slot receiver and the tight end, and that's where Milano plays a big role. And I don't, like Kaiir Elam's going to give up a deep throw to Slayton once or twice a game. That's fine. But without White and Milano, and the other is we were like, okay, Von Miller is back. Von Miller is not back.
No.
Von Miller barely played, and you didn't hear his name when he did play. Right. So I would be worried about the Bills. The Bills' offense is what we thought, it's too much on Josh Allen's shoulders. That's what we all thought before the season. It seems to be the case.
Yep.
And the defense is not going to be as good as we thought it was because of the injuries. So I think of the teams that had trouble this week, I would be most worried about the Bills.
And you mentioned the defense, and the run defense was playing well early in the game. Then they needed stops late in the game. And Barkley gashes them for like 56 yards on 2 carries. And then, Tyrod gets a first down running the ball. And they basically get a field goal drive, the Giants out of running. And the Bills can't afford lapses like this because like 2 or 3 things lapse at the same time for them. That's unacceptable.
Jim Steckschulte asks, since the Bills' quite talented offense resembles a machine gun stuck on full auto that cannot be aimed, how would you evaluate Ken Dorsey as an offensive coordinator?
Better than Matt Canada.
Well, yeah. Okay.
What was the game plan last night? What was that? What was
a lot of Stephon Diggs. That was part of the game plan.
That's
right. I mean, that second touchdown, Allen just made himself by making an impossible throw into traffic that if it had been intercepted, we all would have been like, oh, there we go. Josh Allen, gunslinger. It's the same thing that happened against the Jets in week 1,
Right. What was the game plan against the Jaguars like in the first half? These games start out with let's see if the rookie tight end can do anything. Let's run the ball once or twice. I don't know what they're doing. And Jim, you're right. Of course, then it gets into save us, Josh Allen. And that's where the bomb start. It worked out okay yesterday, but like that's not a game plan. That's we have a talented guy and we're hoping for the best.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, Kincaid didn't play yesterday, but I would like to see more throws to the third receivers. I'd like to see more throws to Kincaid and Knox. And I mean, Diggs is great, but let's spread it around a little bit more, I think.
They never have like a wide receiver screen quick game. They just don't seem to ever get that in play. I don't sense a lot of creativity from the running game ever. Of course, the running game is almost like Andy Reid 10 years ago, or Andy Reid now, where it's like, we just do that once in a while. We just do that once in a while. Hey, gained 8 yards. Let's get away from that. So I'm not a Dorsey fan. Let's put it that
way. Who is to blame for Tyrod Taylor audibling to a run at the end of the first half?
Society's to blame. I think that the coaches, even if you're a 30-year-old backup or whatever, you're a backup. And even if you're a starter, coaches have to be in that headset saying, this is the play. If you don't like it, clock the ball. You don't like it, throw it out of bounds. It can't be. And everyone out there knows knows situational football, X, Y, Z, because they didn't. Not only did Tyrod Taylor not have the situation, look at Waller. After that play, he's just like, no one has a sense of.
No one's hurrying to the line like we've got to clock it and get the field goal unit out here. So, yeah.
Yeah, and we're on the couches. Like, don't they know they're out of timeouts? These guys are running around, hitting each other. They might not. They don't have a little graphic on the screen. They might lose track of this stuff. That's coaching, getting the information to the quarterback, and making sure that these plays are in right.
I will say I've seen a lot of criticism online of the idea that Brian Daboll won Coach of the Year last year. And as somebody who voted for him, I feel like I have to defend myself. It's not Coach of all time.
Right.
The award is Coach of the Year.
Right.
It's about who you feel was the best coach that year. It not necessarily like Coach of all time, give it to Reid or Belichick every year, right?
Right.
Of course, we know it's possible that you're going to vote for someone to Coach of the Year, and the next year circumstances are going to be different, and what's required of them as a coach is going to be different, and they're not going to necessarily look as good as they did the year before. But the question is Coach of the Year. So I don't feel bad about voting for Daboll last year instead of Andy Reid or something.
Yeah, or Nick Sirianni. It's a big talking point in Philadelphia because Sirianni could have had that argument in terms of everything the Eagles were accomplishing during the regular season, how creative the things they were doing. But when I was like looking at it, I was like, it is probably Daboll because this team is winning games with Darius Slayton and Kadrell Hodge and these guys at wide receiver and people you never even heard of on defense. Yeah. And that spoke to the coaching. And again, it's not the general manager, front office, et cetera, of the year to create this team. It's the guy who's getting the most out of those players, I think.
Do you think it was holding on the final play?
Yeah, but like I don't know. Okay, are you get so there's holding and they get the free play. And then there's holding again. Are you going to keep playing flag football at the end of that game and say, well, the Giants keep getting chances until it's 100% clean? I don't know. I know an officiating expert would say, yes, that's how you're supposed to do it. Call it the way it is. I don't know in a flow of a game and a reality standpoint that if that makes sense.
Let's talk about the Philadelphia loss and your feelings about that. I might, it's funny because you thought the San Francisco loss was the least concerning. I wonder if the Philadelphia loss is the least concerning just because they were -4 turnovers, and that is not going to happen very often. If you looked at the other stats, 5 yards a play compared to 4.1 for the Jets. They should have more than that in most games, but still they had more yards per play. 50% on third downs compared to 18% for the Jets. Right. So for the most part, other than the turnovers, they were the better team. Now they had a hard time running the ball.
Right.
14 carries for 33 yards other than Hurts.
Right.
But Philadelphia, even though I don't think they're as good, I think they have more to worry about going forward because they're just not as good as San Francisco. I just don't think. But I feel like that game was a little more fluky. Whereas with San Francisco, the loss really brought up okay, Brock Purdy MVP bandwagon has hit the wall. Like he,
Right.
He lost McCaffrey and he lost Samuel, and it was a little rainy, and all of a sudden he turned into a pumpkin.
Couldn't do anything, and that's noteworthy. And you can make the argument, okay, take 2 top targets away from any quarterback, and where do they go? And not all of them go as bad as Purdy looked, because Purdy really looked bad yesterday, but like they all decline in that situation. And again, that Eagles game, it's like they have the lead and the ball with a 2-minute warning, and this disaster happens. And it seems like, if we replay that game 95 times, they run it, they punt, and Zach Wilson can't get just the field goal range. It's a matter of how many turnovers the Eagles have committed during the course of the season. Hurts has had some fumbles and interceptions along the way. That's part of it. It's the fact that the red zone offense has been a problem, and they got into the red zone late in that game, and they miss a field goal because they have to settle for a field goal. There's a lot of elements like that where you say, this isn't optimized. And again, for all these teams, we're talking about Super Bowl chase. We're not talking about, hey, they made the playoffs, hooray. And when the Eagles take a loss here, and then you have to say, okay, next week, Miami. Suddenly, you're like, that what felt safe for Philadelphia fans doesn't feel safe anymore.
And San Francisco, I mean, it does sound like McCaffrey and Samuel are okay. We'll see. I have to see going forward. There are a lot of injuries this week.
Yeah.
Trevor Lawrence apparently might not be able to play on Thursday night, and Jimmy Garoppolo might be out for a week. And the announcement that Anthony Richardson might get shoulder surgery and be out for the rest of the year.
Tannehill got knocked out.
Killer for my fantasy teams.
Justin Fields' throwing hand. So I got to watch Tyler Bagent for a half. That was interesting.
Yeah, from Shepherd College.
I saw him in the Senior Bowl. So I was like, oh, this kid, he's the backup. Well, who's the other backup? Nathan Peterson. That explains it. The young man's not an NFL quarterback right now. I wish him the best. I also wish him some shoulder pads. Watch the replay. Look at him. It looks like he's wearing 1980s businesswoman shoulder pads. They're really small. Like, I think I've got more padding right now, and it's like put some real pads on this young man. He's going to get hit.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess the teams that came out of this week looking really good are Detroit and Miami. I mean, Miami started by going down 14-0 and then was like, okay, that was fun. And then their offense showed up.
I got a thing. Hold on a second right now. Miami is average. I'm doing this for an article. 6.5 yards per carry.
Yeah.
Through 6 games. That is the highest through 6 games. The next on the list, the 1958 Cleveland Browns at 6.3 yards per carry with Jim Brown at running back. Like they are unprecedented right now offensively.
Yeah. The running game has been fantastic. I think they're 5th in DVOA through 6 games running game.
Really? Just 5th?
And because of adjustments for whatever the average was for that year. And because some of their runs were like in the fourth quarter when I dialed down the importance because it's garbage time.
Good.
Right against the Denver.
Cool. And you adjust for like 50-yard runs. They lead the NFL.
Yeah, 50-yard runs are like the difference between a 30-yard run and a 40-yard run is bigger than the difference between a 40 and a 50.
Right. Because they have 8 50-yard, 40-plus yard runs, 7 40-plus yard runs this season.
Yeah, it's a little crazy.
Yeah.
So we usually do our biggest surprise of the week, but this week was all surprises.
Yes.
What was your confirm my priors? Yes, I was right moment of the week.
I'll go with the Jaguars just sort of righting the ship.
You took mine. That was mine.
I didn't read it. I'm sorry.
I didn't put it in the notes. I came up with it later. So we both have the same. We both have the same, which is that our priors are important and the Jaguars are better than the Colts.
Right. That early season, what's wrong with these guys? It's like, well, they tripped a little bit. They made some mistakes. There's third down blunders. They're fine, in part because the schedule is going to make sure they're fine.
Yeah. The other one, by the way, is Tampa Bay is not really that good.
That was my backup.
Yeah, because Mayfield had been living on third downs, and then he didn't yesterday live on third downs. And Detroit is I don't know. How seriously do you take Detroit, man? I mean, we'll get to DVOA in a second. Detroit is up to number 2 in DVOA. They are 4th on offense, 4th passing, 7th running, and 3rd on defense, 3rd against the run and 5th against the pass. This has been a really good, really well-rounded team with not an easy schedule, like an average schedule, beat Kansas City, right? Like, how seriously are you taking them as a Super Bowl contender?
With younger guys coming around, with guys like Jamison Williams makes his presence felt yesterday. And I'm going to read off the rest of the Lions schedule for you. All right. Ravens and Raiders, bye. Chargers, Bears, Packers, Saints, Bears, Broncos, Vikings, Cowboys, Vikings. You don't hear
that sounds pretty easy.
I don't hear no Niners. I don't hear no Eagles. I don't hear no Bills. I don't hear no Chiefs. I don't hear no Dolphins. And the 49ers and Eagles schedules do not look like that. Trust me. They play each other and all their friends.
Yes, I just checked. By DVOA of opponent, they have the number 28 remaining schedule, Detroit.
They're going to be a 13-win team.
They are underdogs against Baltimore this week. And I like Baltimore.
I want to like Baltimore.
But I already took Lions, and I don't bet that much. I already took Lions plus 2.5. Like Lions are really good.
Lions are really good. The Ravens are going to be coming back from England, and I'm just picturing the field goals, all the field goals, settling for field goals.
Iceman says, when you watch Detroit's pass defense, they are getting a little lucky with opposing quarterbacks missing passes or receivers dropping them. I mean, I will say I didn't watch this week's game. And of course, the first week of the season against Kansas City, they definitely got lucky with drops, right? Yeah.
Yeah, there were a lot of drops, and I only really scanned this week's game. I did not see a lot of it. But I don't want to get into that too deeply, because if you look around the NFL, quarterback play has not been outstanding. And you can only face the quarterbacks you play. It's the Jets who are running around saying, "Look at the quarterbacks we played right now."
Yeah.
But okay, yeah. Without going deep into it, yeah, Bryce Young isn't much of a challenge. Jordan Love and the Packers, I could see how that one went. Falcons went that way. Hey, you know who else drops a lot of passes? The Baltimore Ravens. So we'll see.
Yeah, interesting. Odell Beckham was like 4th in snaps among their wide receivers yesterday. I wonder if he's kind of fallen down the depth chart.
I mean, he's not quite the same guy. He's also not necessarily the guy you want out there on every situation.
Yeah.
Although I don't know if Nelson Aguilar is either. But if you're out there and it's a blocking situation, I don't know if you want Odell out there doing much.
Let's talk about games with post-game win expectancy. Came out different than the result. Houston was only 33% to beat New Orleans. The Saints missed field goals from 29 and 52.
Yep.
And they had an interception of C.J. Stroud that was fumbled back to the offense.
Yep, right there. They also had a couple of 4th down stops late in the game where they were driving. They're down by 7. Got to go for it on 4th and not tremendous, and they missed a couple of times. Real strong game by the Texans overall, not necessarily the C.J. Stroud, storyline game, but just manufacturing the win when you get the opportunity, and that's not the kind of thing the Texans have done in the past.
Yeah, no, I mean, they are the team that is probably the biggest difference from my expectations before the season, and a good on D'Amico Ryans for that.
Yes.
I mean, given the way Miami and San Francisco are playing on offense, he will not win Coach of the Year, because it's either going to go to Mike McDaniel or Kyle Shanahan right now. But D'Amico Ryans is doing a very good job.
He deserves consideration, and notice all 3 of them same coaching family. Pretty wild. Yeah.
The we have games that were essentially 50-50.
All right.
One was Cleveland and San Francisco. The other was Cincinnati and Seattle.
Well, that was a very 50-50 game.
Yeah.
That was, it's 4th down again. Gino, what do you got? Oh, you don't got anything, as they're trying to get in there down by 4 points. And the Cleveland game it was a tough watch, but it was interesting.
I mean, I don't think Burrow looked great this week. When I saw him, it wasn't looking great. And their schedule, is the hardest in the league going forward. And after the bye week, they have the 49ers and the Bills, and then the frisky Texans.
Right. So this wasn't a knockout punch that I thought we might have gotten. But, I keep waiting for, they solved the problem. No, they scored 2 touchdowns early, and that was it. They were a mess for the rest of that game. The other points they got was turnovers.
let's count up the DVOA top 10. Seattle, number 10.
Still there.
Cleveland, 9.
All defense.
Jacksonville, yes, all defense.
All defense.
Jacksonville, they are first in defense and 27th on offense. Jacksonville, 8th.
All right.
Philadelphia, 7. Baltimore, 6.
Okay. The other mistake.
Kansas City, 5, but looming. We all feel
Looming.
like they're better than that.
Right.
Miami, 4.
Wow.
The opposite of Cleveland. Number 1 on offense, number 27 on defense. Buffalo, 3.
Best. Was it? What did you have? 5th best 4-2 team.
Third best 4-2 team ever.
Oh my God. Well, they're going to end up the 6th best 11-win team.
The defense. I mean, I'm really worried about the defensive injuries for that. Whatever their numbers are so far this season, it's the fact that they don't have Milano and White going forward, and that Miller does not seem to be coming back.
Right.
Is not good for them. Right. Detroit, number 2. This is the highest Detroit has ever been.
Ever? They
were number 2 after 1 week. There was 1 year where they were number 2 after 1 week, and that was it.
Barry Sanders rushed for 283 yards or something.
In week 1 or something. It was like 94. It was, yeah.
They should put a banner up for this. A DVOA banner. Come on, Dan Campbell, make it so.
And number 1 still, despite the loss, is, although no longer historically great, number 1, the San Francisco 49ers.
Very good. And you mentioned something on Threads where it's like, folks are going to overreact and put Miami number 1 when they do power rankings.
Yeah, because they beat Carolina big this week, and everyone's like, look at all all these losses and whatever happened to the Bills, and then Miami won substantially. Well, Miami won substantially over the Panthers, and they lost to the Bills by 28 points.
Right.
Kansas City's only loss was by 1 point to Detroit.
Right. No, it makes
sense.
If
you want to tell me we have Kansas City too low and your subjective power rankings have them higher, I'm okay with that.
Right. No, it makes sense. But the recency bias is strong when
you have a weird week like this, especially when you have a weird week like this where weird things happen. People are like, well, they can't beat the Browns or whatever. It's just one game, guys. It's this. That's the NFL. These losses happen. The only team these losses don't happen to is the 1972 Miami Dolphins, right?
Right. It was a different NFL back
then. Monday Night Football. Cowboys favored by 1.5 points against the Los Angeles Chargers. And I looked up some fun stats. Dak Prescott is the 3rd worst quarterback this year, throwing to the middle of the field. The Chargers are the worst defense in the middle of the field. Something has to give.
Something's got to give. Yeah, I haven't really thought about that with the Cowboys offense. Part of it is that they have nothing at tight end that I think they're pretty confident with.
Right. Yeah, I can't believe how many. I'm actually playing against Ferguson in 2 leagues this week. Who plays that guy? Dallas tight ends?
Right. I don't even think he's the number 1. Schumacher also sort of gets the ball kind of.
Right. And Hendershot. There's 3 tight ends, and none of them stand out.
Hendershot.
And then Gallup. I guess Gallup is the 3rd receiver, but he's not really a slot receiver, right?
No. CD is usually you want to move him into the slot and use him there, but then you use him vertically, or you get him on speed out, or whatever.
Flip it around, by the way. Herbert is the 6th best quarterback to the middle of the field, and the Cowboys' defense is 29th. So that's a strength for the Chargers.
Okay.
Even though they're not known for their tight ends either. Allen runs plenty of digs. So it could be a nice Keenan Allen night tonight. Okay. Chargers offense gets worse by down. They're only 16th on 3rd down. Cowboys defense gets better. They're 4th on 3rd downs, and they're 1st on 3rd and long defense.
Yeah, because here comes the pass rush. Yeah, so you don't want to get in that situation.
Brett Thunderstruck fears for Herbert tonight because his quarterbacks before the season were Richardson, Fields, Lawrence, and Herbert. And Jimmy G he picked up, and they all got injured.
Oh, my God.
So, therefore, Herbert will get – that's quite a deep league that you have that many quarterbacks. It's not like a 3-quarterback league, but, yeah. Going to be some injury. That's some injury. You could have an injury bug going.
You'll be fine with Gardner Minshew, Brian Hoyer, Easton Stick. It'll be fine, Brett.
Easton Stick.
Right.
I feel like this is very even.
Yeah.
And if I had to bet, I would take the Chargers plus 1.5.
Okay.
But I would rather not on this game.
These are two teams that it's impossible to have multiple leagues. Okay, Brett. Yeah, that's not all one league.
Not all his quarterbacks are in one league.
Right.
Yeah, this is, I mean, the Cowboys have shown they're not as good as I thought they were before the season.
Mm-hmm.
And the Chargers are a good team. I don't know what kind of home field advantage the Chargers really have, but it feels very like a 50-50 game.
50-50 game, teams that have a little bit of a self-destructive tendency. Check the injury report. There's not a lot going on there right now. So, yeah, I mean, I would probably lean Chargers too, but, like, I'm going to take a nap. I'm going to wake up, like, in the third quarter and watch.
Yeah, well, I mean, if one of these teams wins big, it's a nice statement.
Yes.
This is a nice opponent to get a big win against.
Right.
It seems much more likely that it's going to be just close.
Right.
Down to the wire, which will be good. I mean, that'll be a good game, but doesn't really say that either of these teams is a top 10 team.
No, this is a good middleweight bout.
Yeah. All right, that does it for our Week 6 recap and Monday Night Football preview. Thank you all for listening to the podcast. Don't forget to rate the show and tell your friends and watch us. Again, Thursday's show is going to be at 5 p.m. Eastern time because I've got some other things I got to do at 11. So 5 p.m. Eastern on Thursday for our Week 7 preview. Don't forget to check Mike out at themessenger.com, and all the DVOA numbers should be up at ftnfantasy.com/DVOA. All right, for Mike Tanier, I am Aaron Schatz, and that does it for us today. We will talk to you again Thursday at 5 p.m. Enjoy Monday Night Football.